Okay, I saw this problem on the internet. I felt it was a difficult question, by the way. Looking at it doesn't look that bad, but after working on it, I realized it was a difficult question. And I'll be honest with you, I took probably an approach that probably wasn't the smartest approach initially. We'll talk about what happens after I solve a problem. I look at other people solve problems and say, oh, yeah, you got a better technique. All right? But let me go through what I would have done over here. Just looking at it, first thing I'd probably do is just try to reduce the degree of it. And the way I would do that, on top, I'd factor out an x cubed. And what am I left off with? I'm left off with x4 plus 1. Not that bad, by the way. And bottom, I'm also going to factor an x cubed, although you could factor an x4, by the way. But I want to get it reduced. All right, so x cubed, what do you get? You would get x cubed, let's see, plus x. That's not so bad. And that equals 7 halves. Now, one thing I know by looking at the original problem, and this is the original problem, there's no way x is the solution to the problem. I'm sorry, x equals 0 is the solution to the problem. So I can cancel off, and I get something pretty simple. What do I get? I get x4 plus 1. Again, x can't be 0. There's no way it could be a solution to the problem. I'm not worried about that now. I'm not losing the solution by canceling. Then what I can do, I can multiply both sides by the LCD, or what a lot of students call cross multiplication. I can say 2x4 plus 2 equals 7x cubed plus 7x. Now, I'm no longer in a rational problem. This is polynomial now, and I can, rewrite this guy so it looks like I could figure this out, maybe. Minus 7x cubed minus 7x plus 2 equals 0. I try the rational root theorem, by the way. Rational root theorem. And what's that going to be, plus or minus? Well, the potential roots here are going to be the factors of 2, which is 1 and 2, over the factors of 2, which is 1 and 2. And I get, let's take a look at it. What do I get? Plus or minus? Well, 1 divided by 1 is 1, 2 divided by 1 is 2, and then, 1 divided by 2, and 2 divided by 2, which is 1 I already have listed. So there's 6 candidate roots. Unfortunately, none of those things are going to produce a 0 there. You could try 1 or minus 1, 2 or minus 2. You could try 1/2 or minus 1/2. None of them is going to give you a 0. So the next thing I did is I thought maybe it's factorable. And when I look at this over here, it might be wishful thinking, but what I mean by factorable over integers. So I'd say 2x squared, and then I got x here, squared, because that gives me 2x4 equals 0. My issues over here is what comes after the 2x squared. And, certainly I want to use the same letters I'm using in my notes, by the way. I'm going to put down bx. Over here, I'm going to use a cx. I don't know what they are, by the way. I'm hoping they're integers because it makes it easier for me. And then plus, let's see, plus d plus e. And this is where I'd say, I'm sort of getting into trouble now. And the trouble is there's 4 things I don't know, and I'm hoping they're going to be easy. All right? Now, someone says, how would you do that? What I'm going to do is over here is recommend, if you do this over here, these things have got to match, right? Now, certainly I have 2x4. That's matching. That's not an issue for me. The other things are difficult for me. So, what's the constant? The constant's 2. Where would the constant come from? It would come from d times e. By the way, it makes sense to me. D times e has got to be 2, right? I just don't know what d and e is, right? You might say, I know what it is. You might say d is 2, e is 1. I don't know that. Next thing I do is I put the x's down. And where do the x's come from? Well, before I say that, I know it's minus 7. How do I know that? I'm looking at this over here. So where do the x's come from? Let's take a look at it. Not from the 2x squared, but it would come from bx times e, which is be. And then where else it come from? Looks like dc. And then you'd write down an x squared 1, and that would be 0. And then you'd write an x cubed 1 down, and you would get minus 7. All right? So da 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 da. This is work. I found it to be difficult. However, I did do the work, and I did find those numbers. What numbers were at? A, B. You know what? I don't think I put A down. I'm sorry. I found B, D, C, and E. I don't know why I used those letters. I did. All right? What I found this. Okay. Errors happen. Let's multiply it out. what do you get? 2x squared times those three terms. You get 2x 4 minus 8x cubed plus 2x squared. I'm going to distribute an x across those three terms. What do you get? X cubed. Then you're going to get minus 4x squared. I'm just checking my my little numbers over here. Nice though, easy to check. Then what do you get? Plus, let's see, plus x. Let's do the 2 now. What are you going to get? Let's see, 2x squared. Then you're going to get minus 8x. And then you get minus, no, not minus 2, plus 2. That equals 0. Let me just do my arithmetic now. You get 2x4 minus 7x cubed. And then you're going to get 0x squared. I'm not going to write that down. Minus 7x plus 2 equals 0. And is that what we expected to get? It is. It's right over here. So what do I have? I have two quadratics now, which are a lot easier for me to deal with. Let me erase this over here. And let me just emphasize what we're doing over here. We're trying to solve these two quadratics. Let's do one at a time. I'm going to do this one first. That's going to be x squared. Oh, by the way, I'm expecting to see 4 roots. I would complete the square. Let's see, half of minus 4 is minus 2 squared. You get plus 4. Looks like a pretty simple problem now. What do you get? X minus 2 quantity squared is equal to 3. X minus 2 equals plus or minus the root of 3, or x equals 2 plus or minus root 3. Let me outline where that answer is listed for you right over here. 2 plus or minus root 3. I want to do the other one. What's the other one going to be? 2x squared plus x plus 2 equals 0. I don't want you to complete a square in that one, and certainly not factorable over the integers just looking at it. Let's put this one down for you. What's x going to be equal to? Let's see, what goes on the bottom? Twice the coefficient of the square term, which is 4. The opposite of the coefficient on a linear term, minus 1, plus or minus. Well, let's see, the coefficient on a linear term is 1. When you square it, you get 1. Minus 4 times the coefficient on a square term and the constant term, which is going to be 4. So what do you get over here? Minus 1 plus or minus, let's see, that's going to be minus 15, right? Over 4. And we'll just give it minus 1 plus or minus I root 15 over 4. Let's show you where that answer is written, right over here. All right? So, I mean, we did okay. But again, the problem for me was this work over here, figuring out those coefficients. Did they work out nice? They did. But I really wasn't assured of that when I went into the problem, by the way. So what I did was I also watched someone else do the problem. So what I want to do is I'm going to go through that. By the way, I'm not doing exactly the way they did it, but very similar. I'm very similar, right? But not the same. I'm not doing the same thing they did, but very similar. I saw them do a problem. I learned something by them doing the problem. I learned there was a better approach to the problem. And I want to go through that with you, right? So I'm looking at the original problem again. I'm going to do it a little different. I get the same answers, by the way. If I don't, there's something wrong with my answer. I didn't check my answer yet. Okay, I'm going to divide through by x5. So the top is, when I say that, the left side. When you divide by x5, you're going to get x squared plus 1 over x squared. Relatively simple. When I divide the bottom by x5, I get x plus 1 over x. You should see something that's related now. Now, again, looking at, you may not know the relationship, but I'll put this down for you. And what I want to write down is, I want to write down something I think I'm seeing. And I want to be very careful to go through the steps of multiplying that out. Now, someone can say, I don't see that, nor do I. I'm just saying if I square that, I think I'll see something. What am I going to say? X squared plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 over x squared. All right? So what does that equal? It equals this over here. So let's keep writing it over. And you would get x squared plus 1 over x squared plus 2. All right, let's keep rewriting it. And what am I seeing over here? I'm seeing x plus 1 over x squared minus 2 is identical to x squared plus 1 over x squared. So what I want to do is I want to write that down for you. And by writing it down, I'm going to take this. Right, I see that in the problem, by the way. I see it right over here. And instead of writing that over again, I'm going to write this down. So really what I'm taking is just rewriting it, and I'm hoping to see something nice. And what do you see there? You see x plus 1 over x quantity squared minus 2 over x plus 1 over x, I'll put that in parentheses now, is equal to 7/2. All right? What I'm going to do now, make a substitution. The substitution I'm going to do is I'm going to let u equal. So I'm going to let u equal to x plus 1 over x. What would you get? Let's write that down. You would get u squared minus 2 over u is equal to 7 over 2. By the way, this has become a substantially easier problem for me now because I can easily solve for u. What do you get? 2u squared minus 4 equals 7u. And then I'm going to write down 2u squared minus 7u minus 4 equals 0. This looks like it's factorable. Yeah, it's quadratic. It's much easier for me to deal with. I'm going to say 4 and 1 minus and plus. You just check it. You do get 2u squared. You get minus 8u. Plus 1u is minus 7u. And you do get minus 4. So right now, u is 4, or the u is minus 1/2. All right? So what I want to do is I want to write that down for you. And I'm going to do the 4 first because it's pretty easy. So I'm going to write down the u is 4, and that's equal to x plus 1 over x. I'm going to multiply both sides by x. What do you get? 4x equals x squared plus 1. Well, I'm going to write this as x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to complete the square in that. What do you get? X squared minus 4x. Half of minus 4 is minus 2. And you're going to add, you're going to add 4, and you're going to subtract 4, and you still have a 1 over there. What does that give you? Perfect square, x minus 2 squared minus 3. Add 3 to both sides. By the way, this should be a deja vu for you. It's really the same thing we did before. What do you get there? Well, you get plus or minus the root of 3 equals x minus 2. Add 2 to both sides. You get 2 plus or minus the root of 3 is equal to x. We got that solution before, by the way. All right? I want to do the other one, and I'm going to jam it in somewhere. The other one's a little more complicated, isn't it? It's going to be minus 1/2. That's what u is. By the way, I'm trying to figure out x. I'm using this over here to do that. Was that going to be x plus 1 over x? And by the way, it's going to be another deja vu, but let's go through it. I'm going to multiply both the left and the right by 2x. What do you get over there? You can get minus x. You can get 2x squared plus 2. You get 0. 2x squared plus x plus 2. I want to solve for x now. How do you do that? Quadratic formula. It'll be a deja vu, by the way. We just did it, actually. Let's go through it again to make sure it's the same thing. 4 times 4. Wow, deja vu. I'm sorry. I made a mistake in writing something down over here. This is what x is, not 0. So what's x going to be? Let's take a look. It's 4 minus 1 plus or minus. Well, that's the square root of minus 16. I'm sorry, minus 15. So it's going to be I root 15. Are we getting the same results? We're getting the same results, and that's important, all right? Now, granted, let me just review. A lot of times what you do is, in this part, formative community, is, the first way you do something may not be the best way. I'm not saying it's not the best way. Just to me, when I saw what he did, I thought it was more interesting. And what I mean by that, he didn't do exactly the same thing, But he gave me an idea by observation. And this is why it's so important. You need to become a member of a community. And you're living in interesting times where your community could be people you don't even know. It could be just people on the internet, including YouTube people, where they're working problems that way. And there's a ton of people working problems on YouTube. I would look at them, all right? And don't discount something as being bad or good. Look at things. And you can really, it's worldwide now. You can look at people working in all kinds of places. Most people are speaking English, but if not, you can find channels or speaking a language that you prefer, and you see the very interesting things people are doing. And again, initially, this is the approach I would have taken over here, but then I started to realize, maybe I observed someone else, and I felt, at least it wasn't exactly the same thing. I felt what he was doing was quite appropriate, and it actually made the problem a little bit easier to deal with, by the way. Thank you.